Fellow Stoic, they never wanted you to know this. Your kindness is your strength, but only when used wisely. Let me show you how. What if I told you that your greatest strength, your kindness, might also be your biggest vulnerability? It's not because there's anything wrong with being kind. Kindness is one of the highest virtues. But in a world full of opportunists, manipulators, and people who see others as tools rather than equals, kindness can be mistaken for weakness. And when that happens, you might find yourself disrespected, overlooked, or even exploited. This isn't your fault. Society tells us to be kind, to turn the other cheek, to help others without question. But what they don't tell you is that kindness without wisdom can leave you vulnerable. The Stoics understood this long ago. They knew that while kindness is a virtue, it must be balanced with boundaries, self-respect, and strength. Without these, your kindness can become a trap, a gift that others exploit rather than appreciate. In this video, we'll uncover the truth about why kindness often leads to disrespect and how you can stop it. You'll learn the Stoic principles that will help you protect your value without losing your compassion. If this resonates with you, like this video and comment yes to affirm that you're ready to take control of your kindness. Stay with me until the end, because what you'll discover could completely change the way you see yourself and the way others see you. Why kindness is misunderstood. Kindness is often misunderstood because, at its core, it is seen through the lens of others' expectations rather than your intentions. When you extend kindness, when you give freely, forgive easily, or offer your help without hesitation, those around you begin to form assumptions about the reasons behind your actions. Human nature, being as flawed and self-centered as it often is, tends to equate consistency with predictability. And predictability, in the minds of some, looks a lot like weakness. It's an unfortunate truth. When your kindness knows no limits, others can begin to view it not as a virtue but as a lack of strength. This misunderstanding is not a reflection of your character, but a mirror of their perspective. They see what they want to see. The Stoics understood this tension between virtue and perception, particularly when it came to the way others interpret your actions. Marcus Aurelius, both a ruler and a philosopher, knew firsthand what it was like to navigate the expectations of others while trying to stay true to one's values. He wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good person should be. Be one." It is a call to action, to focus not on how others perceive you, but on how steadfastly you embody your principles. But Marcus also understood that being good does not mean being naive. Kindness, in the Stoic sense, is a deliberate choice rooted in wisdom and self-respect, not an unthinking habit born of a need for approval or fear of confrontation. When your kindness lacks this foundation, it becomes easy for others to mistake it for passivity or weakness. Think about your own experiences. How many times have you found yourself in situations where your kindness was not met with gratitude but with entitlement? Perhaps you've stayed late at work to help a colleague, only to find yourself repeatedly asked to shoulder responsibilities that weren't yours. Maybe you've been the friend who always listens, always shows up, always sacrifices, and yet finds that when you need support, those same friends are nowhere to be found. These experiences are painful not because you regret being kind, but because they reveal a truth about human behavior. When kindness is unchecked by boundaries, it can create an imbalance. Instead of being appreciated, it becomes expected. Instead of being recognized, it becomes invisible. This dynamic can leave you questioning your own values. Am I too nice? You might ask yourself. Should I stop helping people altogether? But the Stoics would tell you that abandoning your kindness is not the answer. The answer lies in understanding that kindness, like any virtue, must be paired with wisdom. Seneca, the great Roman philosopher, wrote, "No one can be happy if they are only looking out for themselves, but no one can be happy if they are letting others walk all over them either." This is where the balance must be struck. Kindness should never come at the cost of your self-respect. To give without expectation of return is noble, but to give so much that you lose yourself is not. It's important to recognize how deeply rooted these misunderstandings of kindness are in societal conditioning. From an early age, we're taught that being kind means saying yes, being accommodating, and avoiding conflict. But this narrow definition of kindness ignores its deeper, more complex nature. True kindness, as the Stoics saw it, is an expression of strength. It is the ability to act with compassion while maintaining your integrity. It is not about pleasing everyone or being liked. It is about living in accordance with your values, regardless of how others perceive you. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." To free yourself from the misunderstanding of kindness as weakness, you must first stop letting others' opinions define your sense of worth. But this is easier said than done. The truth is, it hurts to feel taken for granted. It stings when your acts of generosity are met with selfishness. The Stoics, however, would argue that these moments of pain are not signs that you should stop being kind. They are opportunities to refine your kindness. Instead of retreating, these moments call you to examine the root of your actions. Are you being kind out of fear, hoping to avoid conflict or rejection? Or are you being kind because it aligns with your values, because it's the person you want to be? If the former, your kindness may be misinterpreted because it is unanchored, swayed too easily by the expectations of others. If the latter, then your kindness becomes a reflection of your inner strength, unshaken by how others choose to see it. This distinction is crucial in navigating relationships. Consider someone in your life who consistently takes advantage of your generosity. They may not even do so maliciously. It's possible they've simply grown used to your giving nature. You might feel resentful, but the Stoic response would be to take responsibility not for their actions, but for your own. Epictetus wrote, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." If someone is misunderstanding your kindness, it is an opportunity to reassess how you express it. Are you setting clear boundaries? Are you communicating your needs? Kindness does not require you to be a martyr. In fact, the strongest form of kindness is one that respects both yourself and the other person. The misunderstanding of kindness often arises from the false belief that kindness and strength cannot coexist. But the Stoics knew better. They saw kindness as an extension of strength, not a substitute for it. A truly kind person is not one who gives endlessly to appease others, but one who gives thoughtfully, with purpose and intention. Imagine a tree that provides shade. It does so not because it is weak or obligated, but because it is rooted, steady, and self-sufficient. The tree's kindness, its shade, is a natural extension of its strength. This is what the Stoics encourage you to be, rooted in your values, steady in your self-respect, and generous because of your strength, not in spite of it. In daily life, this might mean saying no when it's easier to say yes. It might mean confronting a friend or colleague who has taken you for granted, not with anger, but with clarity and honesty. It might mean recognizing that kindness is not about sacrificing yourself for others, but about giving from a place of abundance. When you embody this kind of kindness, you teach others how to treat you. You show them that your generosity is a choice, not a weakness. And in doing so, you transform their perception of what it means to be kind. So, the next time someone mistakes your kindness for weakness, remember this. Their misunderstanding is not your burden to bear. You are not kind because you are weak. You are kind because you are strong enough to be compassionate, wise enough to set boundaries, and secure enough to let go of their approval. Comment respect if you've ever felt like your kindness was misunderstood. And keep watching, because next, we'll explore how to balance kindness with boundaries so you can stay true to yourself without being taken advantage of. The balance between kindness and boundaries. Navigating the balance between kindness and boundaries is one of the most difficult yet essential skills in life. We live in a world that often encourages extremes, either to be relentlessly agreeable, constantly sacrificing our own needs to avoid conflict, or to adopt an unyielding stance, shutting people out to protect ourselves from harm. But the Stoics teach us that true strength lies not in extremes, but in balance. It's about showing kindness not as a sign of weakness, but as an intentional act of self-mastery. It's about setting boundaries not as a rejection of others, but as an affirmation of your own worth. This delicate dance between kindness and boundaries is what allows us to live in harmony with others while remaining true to ourselves. It is the art of engaging with the world without being consumed by it. Anger often emerges when this balance is disrupted. Perhaps someone oversteps, takes advantage of your kindness, or disrespects your boundaries. The natural response might be anger, a surge of emotion that feels like strength in the moment but often leads to impulsive reactions. Yet, as the Stoics remind us, anger is not strength. It is weakness in disguise, a loss of control masquerading as power. Seneca called anger the greatest of all weaknesses, and he warned that no plague has cost the human race more. Anger clouds your judgment, distorts your perspective, and leads you to act against your own best interests. The true challenge and the true power lies in responding with intention rather than reacting in haste. This is where the balance between kindness and boundaries becomes transformative. Consider a moment in your own life when someone crossed a line. Maybe a co-worker disrespected you in front of others, or a friend took advantage of your generosity. Your instinct may have been to lash out, to assert your worth through confrontation. But imagine instead that you pause. Imagine that, in that moment, you chose to respond rather than react. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. By refusing to meet disrespect with anger, you reclaim your power. You show that your actions are guided not by their behavior, but by your values." Kindness, in this context, becomes an act of defiance. It is a way of saying, "I will not let your actions dictate my state of mind." But kindness without boundaries can be dangerous. It can lead to burnout, resentment, and a loss of self-respect. If you're always giving, always accommodating, you may find yourself depleted, with little left to offer. This is why boundaries are not just important, they are essential. The Stoics understood this well. Epictetus taught, "Know, first, who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly." In other words, be clear about your values, your needs, and your limits. When you set boundaries, you are not rejecting others. You are protecting your ability to show up as your best self. Boundaries are not walls. They are filters, allowing in what aligns with your values and keeping out what threatens your peace. The key is to integrate kindness and boundaries in a way that feels authentic. Let's say someone frequently interrupts you during conversations, disregarding your thoughts and dominating the discussion. Without boundaries, you might let it slide, silently stewing in frustration while they continue. Without kindness, you might snap, confronting them in a way that damages the relationship. But by balancing the two, you can address the behavior calmly and assertively. You might say, "I value our conversations, but I need to feel heard as well. Can we try to make more space for both of us to share?" This approach sets a boundary while maintaining respect, showing that you value both the relationship and yourself. Balancing kindness and boundaries also requires self-awareness. You need to understand your own triggers, the situations or behaviors that make you feel disrespected or undervalued. Anger often arises when boundaries are crossed, but it's rarely about the external situation alone. It's also about the stories we tell ourselves in response. For example, if someone cancels plans at the last minute, you might feel disrespected or unimportant. But is that feeling rooted in their behavior or in your interpretation of it? The Stoics teach us to challenge these interpretations. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. By reframing your perspective, you can reduce the emotional charge of the situation, making it easier to respond with both kindness and clarity." This balance is not just about managing conflict. It's about living in alignment with your greater purpose. When you practice kindness, you strengthen your relationships and contribute to a more compassionate world. When you set boundaries, you protect your energy and ensure that your actions are aligned with your values. Together, These practices create a life of integrity, where your external actions reflect your internal principles. This is the essence of Stoicism, living with intention, guided by wisdom rather than impulse. But let's not ignore the challenges of this practice. There will be moments when it feels easier to give in, to prioritize harmony over honesty. There will be moments when anger tempts you to lash out, to assert your boundaries in ways that feel satisfying in the short term but damaging in the long run. The Stoics understood this tension, and they offered tools to navigate it. One of these tools is the pause, the simple act of taking a moment before you respond. Seneca advised, "Delay is the best remedy for anger." When you pause, you give yourself the space to choose your response rather than being driven by your emotions. You can ask yourself, what outcome am I seeking? How can I assert my boundaries without compromising my values? What action will leave me feeling proud, even after the heat of the moment has passed? Over time, this practice becomes a form of strength training for your mind. Each time you respond with kindness and boundaries rather than anger, you reinforce your ability to remain calm and centered in the face of challenges. You begin to see anger not as a failure, but as a teacher, a signal that something needs your attention, whether it's an external situation or an internal belief. And as you master this balance, you create a life where no one has the power to disturb your peace. Imagine a world where this balance is the norm. A world where kindness is not mistaken for weakness, and boundaries are not mistaken for hostility. A world where people engage with one another from a place of respect and understanding, even in the face of conflict. This is the world the Stoics envisioned. A world where individuals take responsibility for their emotions and actions, creating harmony not through avoidance, but through intention. If you're ready to live unbothered, unshaken, and in control, like this video, subscribe, share it with someone who needs it, and comment "I am Stoic." Together, we can build a world where no one has the power to disturb our peace. Stay strong, fellow Stoic. Your journey toward balance is a gift, not just to yourself, but to everyone you encounter. Let's rise to meet it with grace, strength, and purpose. We've seen how kindness can be misunderstood and how setting boundaries can help restore balance. But what happens when kindness is mistaken for softness? When people test you to see if they can get away with more? This is where assertiveness becomes essential, and the Stoics mastered it. If you're finding this video helpful, make sure to subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear this. And don't forget to click the Super Thanks button to support this channel. Let's uncover the power of Stoic assertiveness next. Stoic assertiveness. Speak with authority. Kindness is often misunderstood as softness, but in truth, it requires immense strength to remain kind in a world that sometimes tests your patience and resolve. The Stoics understood this better than anyone, and they championed a version of kindness that was never about compliance or submission. For them, kindness was a deliberate act of courage and wisdom, always tempered with self-respect and assertiveness. To be kind, in the Stoic sense, means to stay true to your principles while refusing to let others exploit your generosity. It is about knowing when to speak with authority, when to draw a line, and when to say, "No, this is not acceptable." Seneca, one of the most pragmatic Stoic philosophers, captured this balance perfectly when he wrote, "A good person dies events with his own color and turns whatever happens to his own benefit." This is not just a call to resilience, it's a call to ownership. When you speak with authority, you are reclaiming the power to shape interactions on your terms rather than letting others dictate the dynamic. Stoic assertiveness is not loud or aggressive. It is calm, steady, and deliberate. It does not seek to dominate, but it also refuses to submit. It is the kind of strength that makes others take notice, not because you've demanded their respect, but because your presence and words command it naturally. Imagine a scenario many of us have faced. A co-worker who constantly asks for your help or expects you to cover for their mistakes. At first, you might oblige, thinking you're being a team player or preserving harmony in the workplace. But over time, the dynamic begins to shift. The co-worker starts to rely on you excessively, assuming you always say yes. resentment builds, and you begin to feel taken advantage of. Hey, the Stoic path is neither silent compliance nor explosive confrontation. Instead, it is assertiveness grounded in clarity and respect. A Stoic response might sound like this: I value teamwork, but I can't take responsibility for something that isn't mine. Let's figure out a way to address this issue together. In this single statement, you reinforce your willingness to collaborate while drawing a firm boundary. You've communicated your value and expectations without compromising your kindness. This kind of assertiveness doesn't diminish your kindness, it amplifies it. It sends a powerful message that your generosity comes from strength, not fear. It shows others that while you are willing to help, you will not allow your goodwill to be taken for granted. This is why the Stoics saw assertiveness as a key component of living a virtuous life. For them, the ultimate goal was to act in harmony with nature and reason, which includes setting boundaries that align with your values. But let's acknowledge that speaking with authority is easier said than done. Many of us shy away from assertiveness because we fear conflict, rejection, or being perceived as unkind. These fears are deeply human, but the Stoics would remind us that they are also irrational. Marcus Aurelius, writing to himself during his reign as emperor, observed, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." This insight challenges us to ask, why do we place so much weight on how others might react to our assertiveness? Why do we let the fear of temporary discomfort overshadow the importance of protecting our principles and peace of mind? Assertiveness, as the Stoics practiced it, is not about imposing your will on others. It's about standing firm in your truth. Think of it as being like a lighthouse during a storm. The lighthouse does not rage against the waves or try to stop the storm. It simply stands tall, unshaken, providing guidance and clarity. When you speak with authority, you are that lighthouse. You are steady, calm, and clear in your intentions, even when the situation around you is turbulent. This steadiness not only protects your own peace, but also inspires others to rise to your level of integrity. Consider another example, perhaps one involving a personal relationship. Imagine a friend who consistently dismisses your time and priorities. They might cancel plans at the last minute, interrupt you when you're busy, or ask for favors without considering your own needs. It can be tempting to avoid confrontation, to brush off their behavior and tell yourself it's not a big deal. But over time, these small acts of disrespect erode the foundation of the relationship. The Stoic approach would be to address the issue directly but calmly. I value our friendship, but I need to let you know how I'm feeling. When plans are canceled last minute, it makes me feel like my time isn't valued. Can we work on being more mindful of each other's commitments? This statement is assertive without being accusatory. It invites mutual respect and understanding, reinforcing both the relationship and your self-respect. The beauty of Stoic assertiveness is that it teaches you to act, not react. When someone tests your boundaries or disrespects your kindness, it's easy to feel a surge of anger, frustration, or hurt. But the Stoics remind us that these emotions, while natural, should not dictate our actions. Epictetus famously said, "It is not events that disturb people, but their judgments about them. In moments of conflict, it is your judgment, your interpretation of the situation, that determines how you respond." Assertiveness allows you to step back, assess the situation with clarity, and choose a response that aligns with your values. It is an act of self-mastery, a refusal to let others pull you into chaos. So the next time you find yourself in a situation where your kindness is being tested, remember this: assertiveness is not an act of aggression, it is an act of respect. Respect for yourself, respect for your values, and respect for the other person. Comment assert if you've ever had to take a stand like this. Up next, we'll uncover how to spot and deal with those who exploit kindness. Recognizing manipulative behavior. One of the most painful but necessary lessons in life is recognizing that not everyone will have your best interests at heart. While kindness is a virtue that can build bridges, foster connections, and inspire goodness in others, It can also attract those who see it as an opportunity to manipulate. These individuals exploit kindness as a weakness, using tactics like guilt, flattery, or undue pressure to achieve their own ends. The Stoics, ever pragmatic in their view of human nature, understood this dynamic well. They did not teach us to become cynical or distrustful, but rather to approach life with clear eyes and a steady mind. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing. Life," he reminds us, "is not always graceful. It is a constant struggle to maintain your balance, your integrity, and your peace in the face of forces that seek to destabilize you." Recognizing manipulative behavior begins with observing patterns. Manipulators rarely operate in isolation. Their actions form a web of repeated behaviors that, when examined closely, reveal their intentions. Do you know someone who only reaches out when they need something, rarely offering support or reciprocation in return? Have you noticed people reacting poorly when you attempt to set boundaries, as though your refusal to comply with their demands is an affront to them personally? Or perhaps there are those who skillfully wield guilt, making you feel as though saying no is a betrayal or an act of selfishness. These are red flags, not of your kindness being misplaced, but of it being misunderstood or exploited. The Stoics would tell you that these situations are inevitable. Human beings, by nature, are self-interested. This does not make them evil. It simply makes them flawed, just as we all are. The goal, then, is not to judge them harshly or to abandon your kindness altogether, but to protect your inner peace by learning how to navigate these interactions wisely. Seneca, ever the teacher of balance and wisdom, wrote, "To bear trials with a calm mind robs misfortune of its strength and burden." Manipulative behavior is one such trial, and it loses its power over you when you respond with clarity and composure. Imagine, for example, a co-worker who frequently asks you to finish their tasks or take on extra responsibilities, framing their request with statements like, "You're so much better at this than I am," or "I'd be lost without you." At first, you may feel flattered or even obligated to help, but over time, their reliance on your generosity becomes a burden, and their refusal to take ownership of their responsibilities starts to breed resentment. The Stoic approach in such a situation is not to lash out or withdraw entirely, but to set a clear and firm boundary. A response like, "I value teamwork, but I need to focus on my own responsibilities right now. Let's discuss how you can manage this moving forward," is both kind and assertive. It communicates your willingness to support without sacrificing your own priorities or enabling their behavior. But why is it so hard to recognize manipulative behavior when it happens? Often, it's because manipulators know exactly how to play on your emotions. They might position themselves as victims, making you feel as though your refusal to help would cause them harm. They might shower you with praise to lower your defenses, or use silence and withdrawal to punish you for not giving in. These tactics are subtle, and they are effective precisely because they target your kindness. The Stoics, however, believe that emotions, while valid, should never be allowed to dictate your actions. Epictetus taught, "It is not events that disturb people, but their judgments about them." Manipulators succeed when you internalize their tactics as truths, when you believe their guilt trips, accept their praise as validation, or fear their disapproval. Recognizing manipulation requires stepping back, reassessing the situation with reason, and asking yourself, am I being true to my values, or am I allowing someone else to control my decisions? There is also a deeper challenge at play here, the fear of being unkind. Many people hesitate to confront manipulative behavior because they don't want to hurt the other person or come across as selfish. But the Stoics would remind you that kindness without wisdom is not kindness at all. It is a form of self-neglect. Your responsibility is not to fix them or to comply with their demands, but to stay true to your values. Comment aware if you've ever recognized someone trying to manipulate your kindness. But don't stop here, because next, we'll discover how to turn kindness into your ultimate strength. We've seen the traps of unbalanced kindness and how to defend yourself against them. But what if kindness could become your greatest weapon, a tool for earning deep respect? Stay with me as we reveal how true kindness is paired with wisdom and courage, turning kindness into strength. Kindness is often dismissed as a fragile virtue, a sign of someone too soft to withstand the harsh realities of life. But this belief couldn't be further from the truth. Kindness is not weakness. It is one of the greatest forms of strength. When it is paired with wisdom, courage, and clear boundaries, kindness becomes a transformative power, capable of inspiring respect, fostering connection, and commanding admiration. True kindness is not about being liked, pleasing everyone, or avoiding conflict. It is about acting with integrity, staying true to your values, and choosing to give from a place of abundance, not obligation. Epictetus understood this well when he taught, "No great thing is created suddenly." Kindness is no exception. It is a deliberate act of strength, forged through effort and sustained by inner resolve. Think about the people in your life whom you admire most. Chances are, their kindness is one of the qualities that stands out. But what makes their kindness so memorable? It's likely not because they were endlessly accommodating or because they allowed themselves to be walked over. Instead, it's because their kindness was intentional, rooted in self-respect and authenticity. These are the people who give generously but not indiscriminately, who listen without judgment but speak their truth when needed. Their kindness doesn't stem from fear of rejection or a need to be liked. It stems from an inner strength that says, "I know who I am, and I know what I stand for." Kindness is your strength, but only when it's balanced with wisdom, boundaries, and self-respect. Don't let anyone take advantage of your heart. Use Stoic principles to protect your value and inspire respect. If this video resonated with you, subscribe, share, and like. And comment "I am Stoic" to declare your commitment to living with strength and compassion.